I'm going to make a video again on how to get your spells and organize your spells in a logical way so that you can find them pretty easily when you want to add them or remove them from your bar and put new ones up. In the last video, I neglected to mention a few things like the fact that your trainee spellbook is down here when you start out. And it's important that it is there. Otherwise, you won't have access to your spellbook. So when you click this, you won't see this book 1 that I see now. For example, so let's say, I stand up, move this to here. When you click that, it's gone. And you'll be like, I don't have any of my spells. Where'd my spells go? You have them that are just in your spellbook, and they are not in the correct spot. And it has to be right there in order for that to show up here. Another thing I wanted to mention is that you start with 2 spells. I just made this enchanter to make this video, really. And I just wanted to demonstrate that the way that you add those to your book the first time is you just right-click those. That'll instantly put it into the top left of the first page, page 1. So you right-click the next one, and it'll put it right next to it. So in this example, we have a spell called Torment, and you can hold down the right mouse button to see what it does. Good. So this one, torment the mental state of your target, dealing 3 to 5 magic damage and decreasing their intelligence, wisdom, charisma, and mana regen by 2 for 30 seconds. That's pretty significant. I would classify this as a direct damage spell, because it does direct damage. The next one is a common minor spell shield. Encircle yourself with a magical shield, increasing your max health, armor class, and magic resistance. So this is a buff. And I mention that because that's important, how you organize your spells. So I'm going to move into... Well, I'm standing right next to the Watchman, so it's probably safe. You also will start the game of Monsters and Memories with some type of a note here. Mine says a torn note. I don't know if they all do. And it'll introduce you. It'll say, do not be startled, your character name, but you have a choice to make. The time is of the essence. Something like this. They're not all the same, but depending on what class you pick. And it'll tell you, in order to continue with the class that you've chosen, you got to go someplace. And if you look down here, it says, deliver this note to Master Wincog at his Curious Goods shop. So that's where, as an enchanter, that's where you'll go. And then it should give you some kind of directions. You'll find it along the long flight of stairs that connects Sageside to Salt Breeze Park. Look for a sign. So if you've never been in Night Harbor, that could be kind of confusing. There are maps that you can find on the wiki that will help you to locate. And here I've started at Westgate. It looks like, right? Oh no, this is Northgate. Alright, so actually that's not too far from here. Hopefully, and you should, I would imagine, start somewhere close to where your guild is when you first start. When you need to buy your spells, I won't be able to buy spells because I have no money. But when you need to buy spells, that'll be near the area where your guild master is. That's why it's important to read this note and find this area, because that's where your guild master is going to be. That's where your spells are going to be sold. That's where most of the quests that you're going to want to do are going to be. So you have to read that note and follow the instructions. Next, I wanted to show how to make macros to locate your spells quickly. And so in order to do macros, you'll find the commands bar. Mine is up at the top left. I think maybe by default it's in the bottom right somewhere. And just find this commands bar, click macros, and you can make global macros or you can make macros specific to your character. I would recommend, because we're doing spells, hotbars, which are going to take you to different pages of your spell book, you probably should make it on your character specific tab. Unless you wanted to do something that's shared among other characters, you would put it on the global tab. Like I put my corpse drag button here, my friends here, different macros. My end macro is here, which it basically just takes you to the last page of the spell book. This is where I dump all the spells that I'm done with. But when you're making these, you want to put them on your character specific tab. So I want to make one first spell, and it's going to be, oh, we don't need to do that. It's going to be for that direct damage spell that I mentioned. So we're going to call this DD for direct damage, and we're going to put it on page 1. So book/book space 1. You can create an icon for it, something that kind of reminds you of, you know, what it's going to look like, or what, you know, what that category looks like. In this case, it's direct damage, so maybe I put a fireball there, and then you can just drag that to the bar. I usually put mine on the 4th bank. That's another thing I wanted to explain, is the hotbar. This is kind of complicated, but first let me change the scaling temporarily so that you can see better what I'm going to be talking about. So I'm going to make this a little bigger. Move it over. So you see there's a spinner number here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. I think by default it starts at 0. And the way I have mine set up, you can set a hotkey to go between each of these banks. And I think by default the normal key combination is shift and then the number key of whatever bank you want. So if you want bank 1, you would put, you know, hold down the shift and press the 1 on the num key, not the 1 up above your letters, but the 1 over on your numpad, and then it'll go to that bank. I go into settings, and I have changed my key binds for that to shift 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 somewhere. I apologize. I didn't realize that I thought they were right there. Maybe it's no, it's not an interface. It's in keybinds. So let's do bank. Hotbar bank 0. Ah, that's why. So instead of shift plus a number, it sets it up as parentheses, exclamation point, @ symbol. That's why I didn't see it. So I set them in this way. That way I just hit shift 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it goes to that bank. But you should set it to whatever is easiest for you. That way, when you press, you know, so I go to 4 and then press 1 and it'll activate whatever is there. I hope that I explained that well enough. Then now you can just drag the macro that you made to that point of the bar, and that way when you press that button it'll go to page 1. Now, if it goes to skills, well, it went to book, page 1 of the book, but it went to the skills instead. Once you set the tab to the book that you're wanting, it'll stay there. But you may have to click that tab. So now I've got a key for my direct damage spells. Now I want a key for my buffs. I'm going to put those on page 3. So you click here, buffs / book 3, change the icon, do something like a big muscle. That's buffs, and drag that over here. Then I can, now to move this to another page, because I don't like where it's at, you right click and then hit the 2 to get to that buffs page, and then left click or right click, either way, it'll go right there. Now when you memorize your spells, you just left click and then click on the spot of the ability bar where you want it to be memorized. Same with that one. Put that down here. I've also changed these. I don't know what it is by default. I think maybe it's control 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all that. I have mine set to alt because that's just the way it is in EverQuest, and I played EverQuest for 27 years, I guess. So that's what I'm used to. But you set it to whatever you like. And I think that is pretty much all I had to say. I mean, you can continue going on for the different types and classes of spells like crowd control, damage over time spells, utility spells like your gates and your binds, all of those things, and then lay them out here on your bar, and then you can just go directly to those pages when you want to find a spell that you have. It's a really easy way to do it. That's just my suggestion, and I hope that helps you. Bye bye.